You ever have one of those days where you wake up and then just sort of exist? You're not doing anything, just lying down, scrolling through random videos, snacking when you feel like it, maybe watching a show or two. You're not working, not exercising, not really engaging in anything, but somehow, by the end of the day, you feel completely drained. Not the kind of tired that comes after a long shift or a workout. No, this is a heavier, duller kind of fatigue. One that makes you ask, how am I this tired when I've done nothing all day? This is what I call the laziness paradox. And it's not just about being unproductive. It's about the strange, hidden energy cost of avoiding engagement with life. It's the slow drain of time slipping through your fingers while your mind is quietly screaming in the background. Not loud enough to wake you up, but just enough to keep you uneasy. And to understand why this happens, we have to go a lot deeper than "you're just lazy." Because you're not. And what you're feeling has a reason. In fact, it has many. We often confuse stillness with rest, but they are not the same thing. True rest is about recovery. It's the body healing, the mind rebalancing. It happens when we allow ourselves to slow down with intention, when we give space for breath, reflection, peace. Think of a calm lake at sunrise. Quiet, still, but alive with meaning. That's rest. But the kind of stillness we often slip into during lazy days isn't peaceful. It's passive, mindless, disconnected. You're not actually resting. You're just avoiding. And avoidance is never neutral. It builds tension in the background. The longer you delay movement, the heavier the idea of moving becomes. Because when you're inactive without intention, your body might be doing nothing, but your mind is stuck in a low-level loop of stress, guilt, anxiety, and inner conflict. You keep thinking about what you should be doing, but you keep not doing it. And that dissonance quietly eats at you. It's like trying to sleep with a faint alarm buzzing in the background. You might be lying down, but you're never really at peace. There's no restoration, just static. Here's where it gets even deeper. There's a psychological concept called inertia of behavior, where the longer a person stays inactive, the more effort it feels like it will take to begin. And this isn't some vague theory. It's a very real mental phenomenon. It's why lying in bed all day makes it harder, not easier, to get up the next day. When you haven't taken any meaningful action for a while, your brain starts to develop resistance, not just to hard things, but to anything. Even the simplest task, brushing your teeth, responding to a text, getting up to eat, starts to feel like climbing a hill. And this is where many people mistake what they're feeling for laziness. But let's be clear, laziness is a choice not to care. What you're feeling is more like mental stagnation, a kind of emotional gravity that increases the longer you let yourself sink into passivity. And here's the most ironic part. We think doing nothing will help us recharge. That if we just give ourselves a day off, a true break, we'll feel better. But that only works when the nothingness is intentional, peaceful, present. What we usually call doing nothing is actually doing a lot, but none of it helps us feel rested. We scroll through endless content, social media, YouTube, TikTok, whatever. Background noise on one screen while we stare at another. Constant stimulation, constant distraction. And these things don't give our minds space. They clutter them. They hijack our dopamine systems, giving us just enough reward to keep us hooked, but not enough satisfaction to make us feel fulfilled. So even though you're relaxing, you're still burning mental fuel. You're processing thousands of pieces of micro-content, reacting to fragmented information, shifting your emotional state constantly without realizing it. And by the end of the day, you're mentally fried, but have nothing to show for it. You're tired, overstimulated, emotionally flat, and quietly disappointed in yourself. And the worst part? That emptiness feeds guilt. Guilt feeds avoidance. Avoidance feeds more passive behavior. And the cycle repeats itself. But let's zoom out even more. This isn't just about habits. This is about philosophy. about what it means to live meaningfully. The philosopher Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and existential therapist, believed that the core of human energy is purpose. He said, "Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose." He saw people survive the most horrific situations not because they had strength, but because they had something to live for, a reason, a sense that their suffering had meaning. That same principle applies to your everyday experience. If you wake up with no sense of why you're doing anything, if your days feel like empty space without aim or direction, your body responds with fatigue. Because without meaning, your brain doesn't see a reason to generate energy. It holds back. This isn't failure, it's a signal. Your system is saying, "Hey, give me something to care about." But here's the twist, and this is important. It doesn't have to be some grand world-changing mission. You don't need to figure out your life's purpose before you feel okay again. You just need something small to align with. One simple act, one meaningful moment. That's all it takes to begin turning the tide. Go outside for 5 minutes, feel the wind, let the sun hit your skin. Take a real shower, not a rushed rinse, but a slow one. Breathe. Notice the warmth, the sound, the sensation. Call someone you haven't spoken to in a while, not to vent or explain, just to connect, to remind yourself that the world exists beyond the screen. Write something down, not to fix anything, just to acknowledge it. Put your thoughts on paper and see them clearly, instead of letting them swirl in your head. These acts might seem small, even silly, but they are anchors. They ground you in conscious engagement. They reintroduce you to the present moment and remind your body that life is still happening. And when you do them, you slowly start generating real energy again. Not hustle energy, not forced motivation, but the quiet, steady vitality that comes from being aligned with yourself. That's where rest becomes real, where silence becomes nourishing, where movement becomes possible again. So, why does doing nothing make you more tired? Because what we call nothing usually isn't nothing. It's avoidance, it's overstimulation, it's guilt without reflection, time without presence, existence without intention. And that is exhausting. But there is a way out. When you replace avoidance with awareness, when you stop chasing stimulation and start listening to yourself, when you allow one small, mindful action to break the stillness, you remember something profound. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are simply disconnected. But reconnection is always just one breath away. So take that breath. Let it carry you forward. And remember, you don't need more time. You need more presence.